All right, today we're going to crack open a really gripping 19th century mystery, one that was found in the pages of a newly discovered manuscript. It's a story all about secrets, silence, and a single door that holds the key to a woman's entire erased history. So let's start right here with this incredibly cryptic line from a letter. It was sent by a governess, Dorothea Price, and it hints at this really carefully guarded secret inside a remote English manor called Ashfeld House. A secret that, somehow, is all about one unopened door. And that really sets the stage for our story, doesn't it? We're about to step into a household where every single person is bound by this deep, unspoken rule. Okay, so let's meet the people at the heart of this. You've got the father, Mr. Ashfeld, whose politeness is less about being welcoming and more like a defense shield. Then there's the aunt, Henrietta, who runs the house with this cold efficiency. And finally, the daughter, Lucette, a teenager who has figured out that asking questions here is, well, it's a bad idea. The whole house is basically orbiting two black holes. First, there's a door on the second floor that is never, and I mean never, opened. And second, there's a mother, Catherine Ashfeld, who is never, ever mentioned. And you get the sense it's not the silence of grief. No, it's the silence of concealment. And this, of course, is what kicks off the investigation. The new governess, Dorothea, and her cousin, Margaret, they realize they have to figure this out. Not just because they're curious, but for young Lucette, who deserves to know what happened to her own mother. So where do we even start? Well, you start with the most basic question you can think of. If Catherine really died in the village, like everyone sort of implies, there has to be a record of it, right? So they head down to the local parish church to look for that death certificate. And boom, this is the first huge crack in the family's story. They go through the official register for the year she supposedly died, and there's nothing. No Catherine Ashfeld. Now, you have to understand, in Victorian England, registering a death wasn't optional. It was the law. So her not being in the record, that's not just a mistake. It's basically impossible. So, after getting kicked out of Ashfield House for asking too many questions, the investigation moves on to London and Manchester. And there, they start to piece together a picture of Catherine that is completely different from what you'd expect from a wealthy mill owner's wife. And this contrast is absolutely crucial. You see, the perfect Victorian wife was supposed to be this angel in the house, silent, domestic, obedient. But Catherine Ashfeld? Oh, she was an intellectual, a political radical, a chartist, fighting for workers' rights. She was secretly writing and publishing pamphlets about social reform. She was the total opposite of everything her husband's respectable status was built on. And then they find a collection of Catherine's old letters, and a line that just sends a chill down your spine. Her husband found out about her political writing, and he didn't just ask her to stop. No, he threatened her. He basically said that if she kept embarrassing him, he knew doctors who could have her put away in an asylum for nervous women. He was threatening to use her passion as a weapon against her. Just when it seems like the trail might be going cold, a new lead pops up from the most unlikely source, the Ashfeld family's old lawyer, who is now on his deathbed. And his confession? Well, it takes this whole story down a much, much darker path. Okay, so get this. The solicitor confesses he helped James Ashfeld cook up the whole story about Catherine dying of a fever. Ashfeld had told him that she'd abandoned the family, but the solicitor says he never really believed it. He tells them to look into a suspicious fire at one of Ashfeld's warehouses, a fire that happened on the exact night that both Catherine and her radical half-brother completely vanished. So they track down a former fireman who was at the scene that night, and his story confirms their absolute worst fears. He says the fire was no accident, it was definitely arson. And even more shocking, he found human remains and a melted locket in the ashes. But when he came back the next morning, it was all gone. The bones, the locket, everything. And he was told to just forget what he saw. This wasn't just a fire, it was a cover-up. You see where this is all going, right? All the evidence, all the threads, they all point back to one place. They become convinced that the final piece of the puzzle is right where it all started, behind that unopened door. It's a huge risk, but they sneak back to the house in secret. They have a set of picklocks, they go up to the forbidden room, and after 15 years of absolute silence, the lock finally clicks open. But when they get inside, it's not what you'd expect. It's not some gruesome crime scene. It's almost more chilling. It's a secret shrine. Preserved in the dust are all of Catherine's last things: the fire-damaged locket, her letters, and her personal journal. Her husband didn't destroy her memory. He just sealed it away from the world. And then they read her final journal entry, written the day before the fire. And it changes everything. Turns out her radical brother was planning to set that fire. Catherine wasn't helping him. She went there that night to stop him, to prevent a crime and protect her family. And her very last words were a message to her daughter, telling her she loved her more than life itself. Now, with that journal in hand, the fight for Catherine's story just explodes out of the shadows and into the open, forcing a real, formal reckoning with the past. A public inquest is held, and the jury's verdict makes it official. Catherine died a hero trying to stop a crime. Her husband, James Ashfeld, is found to have unlawfully concealed her death, and while he manages to avoid prison, his reputation is absolutely destroyed. The truth is finally, officially on the record. After all of this, Catherine finally gets the dignity she was denied for 15 long years. Her remains, which her husband had secretly buried in an unmarked pauper's grave, are moved to a real plot in the churchyard. Her new headstone carries this really powerful epitaph. It completely recasts her story. She wasn't a shameful secret. She was a woman of principle, a woman who was silenced in her life, but whose story, whose legacy just could not be suppressed forever. And that's what really sticks with you, isn't it? Catherine's story was finally brought to light, but it just makes you wonder, how many other stories just like hers, especially stories of women who dared to be different, have been locked away, erased, and are still just waiting for someone to find the key?